My name's Ethan, and today I'm here with Olivia Duncan, Digital Experiences Manager for Disney. Olivia, thank you for being here and taking the time to join us today. So I just wanted to ask if you could describe your role as a Digital Experience Manager for Disney and kind of just walk me through on what you do on a daily basis. And I guess what are some of your tasks and responsibilities for the day?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So basically, I oversee our brand and content strategy and studio relations for our digital products. Within Disney, we have like our different segments. There's entertainment, which includes streaming and studio. I'm in the consumer products and park segment. And then within consumer products, it's publishing, and publishing oversees like games, books, and digital. So I'm working on both games and digital products, and that includes licensed products. So when we did the Samsung Frame TV, it includes NFTs, podcasts, mobile games, console games, everything. And my role is to look at things from an overarching standpoint, make sure it makes sense from a brand perspective, make sure the content itself is on brand and on model. So if we get a digital collectible of like Mickey, making sure he looks on model. And then part of that includes routing to our different partners internally. So we have corporate brand and studio, so like animation, who are the experts on, especially when you get products for like the Jungle Book or those classic titles or newer titles like Frozen. It's kind of looking at things holistically and then funneling it down to get approval. I don't really work on physical products
Okay,
or books, only when our team needs help and someone needs an extra set of hands. And it's for the company itself, so not just for theme parks, it's all of our products inside and outside of the parks. And forgot to mention, we have a whole digital team here who is actually the ones liaisoning with the licensees and developing the product, going into production and doing the technical stuff. And then they send it to us at each stage.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. And then I know you're currently pursuing an MBA here at USC and graduated LMU with a bachelor's in business and marketing. I'm just curious what got you interested in digital experiences and I guess the digital realm in general. I know there's many different aspects to marketing, but why digital media specifically?
Yes. So I actually, at LMU, I was on a digital marketing track, and that was like classes that were at all the agencies in the area. So, like TBWA, OMD, stuff like that. And I was really interested in social media specifically. And this was like back before that was a real job, but you can tell like it was going to be huge.
Hmm.
So, my first job out of college was at a social agency. I worked there for 3 years doing film campaigns for like the Hunger Games franchise. I did Mockingjay Part 2, some Netflix shows, different movies with like Paramount and WB. And it was really good experience, but it was very grueling, especially being agency side, you're working 24/7. So after a few years of that, I moved client side, came to Disney. That way I can just focus on one brand instead of like when you do social media management, you're on a campaign for films for like 3 months and then you pass
Hmm.
it off. And you're not really building a continuous audience. And I wanted to be somewhere where you could just like develop and grow one specific brand. So I did that for another couple years, I would say, like maybe 3 more years. And then I moved to brand strategy, which is where I'm at now. So I'm not doing marketing anymore. I help out because I'm the person on our team with marketing experience. So if there are questions on that, like for the Samsung TV, they needed help reviewing their marketing plan, I was able to step in. But I was interested in moving into a role that oversaw more than just the marketing, more than just a social handle, but from a brand strategy point of view, like what are we doing? And that's also why I went back to get an MBA because I'm interested in doing strategy from a business point of view and being the person who can oversee different channels instead of being the person who only knows one channel. So
Hmm.
that was kind of the path of how I got here.
I guess you already answered this question. I was going to ask why you decided to pursue an MBA, but that totally makes sense. Um,
Well, I
I,
can elaborate too if you'd like.
oh, yeah, that'd be great. I guess if you had more to add.
Yeah, so it was more wanting to like get a wider breadth of knowledge and skills and different things. I knew I was lacking in like finance,
Mm-hmm.
just everything. I wasn't good at it. I didn't know where to start. So this program specifically is very focused on like financials, strategy, consulting. So that helped a lot. And I just didn't want to get pigeonholed into only social media marketing.
I
And I
see.
thought that this would be a good way to widen the breadth of knowledge in a way where I can then get real world experience at work and
Mm-hmm.
apply those things to my job. Um, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So was it to like pivot careers? A lot of people are doing it to get into consulting or
Yeah,
change industries. For me, I knew I'm not going anywhere. So
it's kind of
it
just to
was,
leverage.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I think they call it career enhancement.
I was going to ask what you believe are the most valuable skills and experiences that kind of helped you become a manager. Um, I was just kind of wondering what you believe kind of makes someone a good fit for a manager position based on your experiences.
Yeah, I think communication is huge. Just being able to like write and talk effectively and knowing the right questions to ask, and just kind of being able to get information and distill it, internalize it, and then put it into action. So I think a lot of that comes from good communication. Also, that leads to having good relationships when you're able to communicate. So that's another thing that I think helps is having a strong network. And even like when I was new, I would just try to develop every time I met someone, get to know them on like a personal level as well as how to work with them professionally.
Hmm.
Because I think, especially at Disney, a lot of the culture is like we are all people first and then workers. It's not that like I feel like I hear stories about Netflix where it's very, cutthroat business related. And here people are always asking like how your family is, how was your weekend. So you just develop these really strong relationships, which helps in the long run, like whether you need to get a project over the line and you need some roadblocks moved, or if you want to pivot to a new position. That's how I got my role now, is just from the people that I knew who knew each other. It's a very small industry. So I would say that would be number two is like, so communication, relationship building is a really, I think, underrated skill to have. And then, of course, like not just competence, but willingness to learn and saying yes to things. The people that I see get ahead are the ones who are always like, yeah, I'll do it. And, like have a positive attitude about it, over people who are like, oh, my workload is this and that. Even if you like vent within your team, I think the just kind of brings down the energy. But for people like my team is very like, yes, we'll do it. And we're positive about it. And now we have like a reputation of like, if you don't know where to go to my boss's name is Allison, go to Allison's team and we can at least point you in the right direction. So just having like a positive attitude sounds cheesy, and willingness to try. And that goes a long way too, especially when you're someone who's like not senior manager up. When you're
Hmm.
new, like that's super valued because you can always learn on like the specifics of the job. Like I might not know how to do something, but just being open to it, they'll show me, and then I'll know, and then I'll be the expert.
Um, how do you think digital media has changed over the years and I guess changed the landscape of marketing and communications within the entertainment industry, just both from, a big profile company standpoint and an agency standpoint? And I guess what emerging trends and technologies do you believe will have the biggest impact in the industry? And how does Disney plan to adapt to them?
I think the landscape is drastically different year to year. Looking at how things are now is a totally different world. I started working in 2015. The compounded changes are just crazy. And even when I was working in social, we had to keep up with the latest technologies. It just moves so fast. I think part of that is just platforms coming out. So we had like for the longest time just Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And then it's like, oh, now there's TikTok, now there's Threads. Twitter's now X, and like the types of
Yeah.
content that perform well like last quarter are not going to perform well this quarter just because of people's
Hmm.
habits and what they're engaging with. So I think that's when like reporting comes into play because it is different for every brand and what type of content they post. Some brands might have video content that performs better, some brands might have static photos or just different graphics. So it varies on each brand, and it changes from time to time. And I think users, their tastes change too. So when I started, we were doing a lot of like Katniss quote graphics, and it performed well at the time at the like height of the Hunger Games movement. I don't think that would perform today. Today, people want to see like
Yeah.
real people posting videos where you feel like you're on FaceTime. The trends are changing in terms of like what people look for. Like Instagram stories for a while were huge, and you would post quizzes and then they would perform well and people would repost. I don't think that would work now. I think people can see through when you're just trying to get engagement versus when you're posting for stuff that the fans actually want, if that makes sense. But
Yeah. They're getting smarter and they're kind of
yeah,
understanding the back end
yeah,
side
and
of
I
things.
think
Yeah.
like just a good rule of thumb in general for anyone in marketing is like post or do what like you would want to see as a fan of that title of that franchise or the brand, and that's I think like a pretty sure way to know that you have your finger on the pulse.
What are some upcoming or emerging trends and technologies in the digital media landscape that you anticipate will have the biggest impact on the
Oh,
industry? I know right now AI
yes.
is a big one. It's also so new and it's progressing so fast that people are kind of having a hard
Yeah.
time keeping up with it. And it's kind of unsettling and nerve wracking for a
Yeah,
lot of people. So,
where these comedy writers used it to write jokes, and they used like a version that's not available to the public. So like we have ChatGPT. There's AI that we
mhm.
don't have access to that they used, and they're like the jokes were funny. And like they were like this is crazy, and like the general public doesn't even know this exists. Like what do we do once it does get out? And it's a self-learning tool
Yeah.
too. So it just keeps getting better. Yeah.
Wow. It's also scary how the AI itself kind of
Humor.
understands what human emotions are. Yeah,
Yeah.
humor, exactly. So that's pretty creepy. But if there's any advice you could give or provide to those who want to become digital marketers within the entertainment industry and from your own personal experience of being in the field
Mhm.
for some time, is there anything that you'd like to provide to people aspiring to
Yeah,
go
I
that route?
think this is gonna be so cheesy, but I trust me, it like works. Literally, just be yourself.
Hmm.
When you don't have a ton of experience, that's fine. Good teams, good leaders are willing to teach you on the job. Also, if you're starting out, like you're moldable, which is it sounds bad, it's not. It's good because then you can learn the processes and instill those habits in you that aren't carried over from like something else. But they just want people we want people who we want to work with, not like as friends necessarily, but like people that you want to work with every day. Now that we're back in office for a lot of these jobs, yeah, like just nice positive people, those are the ones I think that especially at the culture here, that's what we gravitate towards, and people who are willing to learn because so much stuff can be learned, but it comes down to like kind of your personality. For the longest time, I was always getting so nervous before interviews, and I think that it did not help me. It didn't serve me because then I wasn't being myself and I was not getting past the first round because I was so like tense and nervous. That and then also the other piece of advice I would say is I didn't have internships in college. I worked as a temp. I just wasn't thinking ahead, and that was on me. But the way that I broke in still was using the skills that I had and applying them to the role. So it's like, yeah, I might not have worked on a theatrical title before, but I'm really organized. I'm a quick learner. I'm dependable. I'm malleable. And those things transfer. So using what you do have and tailoring it to that role, whatever you're applying for, um, is hugely valuable because you have this stuff deep down. Everything else can be learned. And then yeah, what also helped me is starting out on an agency because first of all, you get 5 years of experience in one because you're doing a little bit of everything. So you kind of learn the lay of the land, which is
Mm-hmm.
super valuable when you're first starting out. And it also helps you know, okay, I like this or I don't like that. And you can like forge your path from there just by having visibility into all these different avenues. Also, for entertainment specifically, when you work at an agency, um, you get to know a lot of people and people move around. They're moving around within different studios, different agencies. When I got my job at Disney, it's because my Lionsgate client came here and I had a really strong relationship with him. So I think there's a lot of value in agency work. Just put in a couple years, get your experience, and then once you do that, you can do anything. The rest of the work will be so much easier after that. But yeah, I think for me, I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't start at a studio right after college, I'm going to be behind. But it's not like that at all. Yeah, and there's no
Got it.
timeline too. Like people move around all the time. I wouldn't get stuck on a certain title. You can always move around, get promoted, like just stick to the area you want to work in. And yeah, I would say that was what helped me. There were times where I was tempted to apply to a role where I'm like, I don't even want to do analytics, but I want my
Mm-hmm.
foot in the door, and I'm glad I
Mm-hmm.
didn't because I could have gotten derailed. Yeah, trust yourself. Be open to agencies in addition to studios. So many things change in a year or 2 years. I feel like I just want to say, like, you got this, just trust yourself. And I wish someone told me that when I started because I was so stressed and worried and like, I'm not going to make it, but you do. And I could have saved myself so much stress and probably some gray hairs.
No, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the advice. I totally feel that right now. I don't have that much internship experience, and like you said, I'm just trying to apply to any position that I think I have some experience in, but not necessarily enjoying what the role actually is, just to get my foot in the door. So, understanding your perspective of things and receiving that feedback was just very valuable. So,
Yeah, I
thank
mean,
you for
like
that.
when I got
And
this role, it's brand content strategy and it kind of relates, but it's not marketing. All I had was marketing, but I was
mm-hmm,
able to say, like, well, I know how to do X, Y, and Z aligned with the job description. And that's totally fine. I just think that I know I put a lot of pressure on myself and it doesn't have to be that way. Also, a tangible thing you can do is I had a like portfolio, which isn't common outside of like design and creative roles. So I had something even out of college where it showed like case studies almost, where I had like an intro slide, who I am, and then like things I worked on. So for college, it was like group projects are like annoying sometimes at the time, but they're super valuable experiences still. And you can use that to show how you've like approached certain problems, the solutions you came up with. So I would have like 3 case studies. I updated it to get into social at Disney, where I had my agency work. And I didn't have like a design portfolio, would be like a collage of work. It was just like a couple pieces
yeah,
of social assets for examples, and then talking about our strategy, and then a little blurb about results. So, like, grew engagement by 800%, stuff like that. Kind of basic, but it just is something you can leave behind. And then when I interviewed for this role, still like COVID protocols. So I screen shared it during my interview and we walked through it together. So that was super
uh,
helpful also on Zoom because when you're looking at someone face to face, it can be intimidating, especially when you really want a certain job.
mm-hmm,
So to have something that shows off your personality, your deck building skills, and then work examples, whether it's at school, internships, real life, anything you've got. Um, it helps you talk to these things and kind of break the ice also. And then you can send it to them after in an email. My boss still has mine and she really liked it and she showed it when I first started to the team to be like, look how cool this is. I felt like that helped a ton, honestly. Yeah. Just get through that first
okay.
part of the interview.
I know we're out of time, so thank you so much, Olivia, for joining me today. Good luck in the rest of the year and your studies.